Hello, my name is Jon Witt, and this is a request that I had in terms of uh, post C-section, how to reestablish the abdomen. So this isn't anything out of the box in terms of yoga or toning the abdomen, but it's something that I think what's missing for people is something that's consistent and something easy enough, but also effective. So these are exercises that I like in terms of toning the abdomen. And then also, obviously, diet has a lot to do with it. Sleep, quality of sleep, all these things factor into how well you recover. So this is post C-section. So something that your doctor will say, hey, well, you need, I believe it's probably 12, maybe 18 weeks of post-birth, right? After you have the stitches out. This is well beyond, say it's a year later, 6 months later, and you really want to get your abdomen to be toned. This is more for what this is like, but like anything, you have to consistently do it. So this is easy enough that you could most certainly do it every day, but if you want results, you have to do it at least 3 times a week, something like that. I'm just going to do one round. If you like them, you could repeat it morning, afternoon, and evening, something like that. So you're going to start on your back. So as I'm on my back, I'm just going to have my feet underneath my knees and my hands over my elbows. And I'm just going to lift the hips up. I'm going to pull the shoulders back. I'm squeezing the glutes, thinking that my feet are dragging towards my elbows, so my hamstrings are involved. And then I'm just going to roll down. You could certainly stay up, but I'm coming down just for a moment. And then I'm elevating the pelvis, elevating through the lower back, through the mid back, through the upper back, squeezing. So I'm being a bit more active just for time, So a static hold, you might actually be able to hold it longer, but the way I'm doing it, it'll be a little bit more physical. So I'm curling up, lifting the pelvis, lifting the low back, mid back, upper back. And then I'm slowly bringing the upper back down. I'm trying to move each facet of the spine independently. As I'm down with my low back, then I'm down with my pelvis. So I'm just going to take my feet off the floor, and then this is the most basic variation of it. So if you were really weak, you could be just holding this. I'll add a few different variations, but I'm going to take my arms straight up over my shoulders, and I'm going to take my right arm overhead and my left leg forward in space. So what you want to think of is that your ribs are moving to the floor, and then this will help in establishing the abdomen, the lower abdomen. So I'm going to take the hands over the shoulders, knees over the hips, take the left arm overhead and the right leg forward. So I'm trying to keep my left knee over my pelvis. Take a couple deep breaths here. I'm taking the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips, taking the right arm overhead and the left leg forward. So these are called dead bug. Very good for posture. Very good if you have an overly anterior tilt in your pelvis. Take the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips. Take the left arm overhead and the right leg forward. So take a couple deep breaths. So pull in, ribs are in. Then taking the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips. Bring the feet down. Take the hands over the elbows. Lift through the pelvis. Ground down through the shoulders. Right? Pull the elbows into the floor. Slowly bring the upper back into the floor. The mid back comes down. The low back comes down. The pelvis comes down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my feet off the floor. I'm going to take my arms overhead. And I'm just bringing my left foot down. And then my right foot down. Bringing my left foot down. My right foot down. Right? If my lower back is off the floor, these are incredibly easy to do. You keep your abdomen in. These are simple, but they can be very effective. So if you can, just bring both feet down, but keep holding. I'm barely touching the floor. Then take your legs up, bring your feet down, just barely up off the floor, bring them up, one more time down, back up, keep the ribs in, down, really good for inversions, back up, one more time down, and then up. You can bring the arms down. So I'm keeping it more on the easy side because you want to be able to do it. If it's too difficult, most likely you're not going to do it every day. So have the feet down, have the hands over the elbows, lift the pelvis, ground down through the shoulders, elevate the hips. And then with this, classic yoga, you're using some tightening of what's below the navel, right? More into almost like it is in yoga, we call them bandhas. It's like a genitalia hold, you're holding that as you're in these positions, which is very good for the abdomen. So bring the upper back into the floor, mid back comes down, low back comes down, and pelvis comes down. So I'm going to roll onto my side, and then as I roll onto my side, I'm going to come up, and then I'm just going to push down. So if you can do side planks, you can of course be on the hands. I know not everybody can do that, so I'm going to do a side plank, but on my forearm. So I'm going to have my forearm on the floor. I'm going to step my left foot over, and I want my shoulder to be engaged. So I'm pushing down through the arm. I'm going to lift my hips off the floor, and then lower, and then lift. Use your arm, obviously use your abdomen, lower. These are easy. Have the feet straight, have the legs straight, have the feet, opposite to one another. Lift yourself up. If you want to take the arm up, you could certainly do that. Bring it down and bring it up. So if you hold it statically, right, you almost get used to holding it. Not that it's bad, but you almost, it's easy. So I'm coming down, and then I'm coming up. If you're a person that's never held something statically, you're going to get more benefits holding something statically than bring yourself down. Just for the sake of the video, I'm going to turn to the other side, but you could obviously be on the same side. So have your right leg over your left, push down through your forearm, and engage in the shoulder. So important, engage in the shoulder, like press through the shoulder. So the shoulder blade's actually moving apart in all straight arm positions, even though this is a bent arm position, right? So I'm going to lift. So you want your scapula to move away from one another in straight arm planks, side planks. Bring your hips down, just so that you have stability in the shoulder to protect the shoulder. Lift the hips. Very good for your hips. Very good for your side body. Bring the hips down. Lift your hips up. And then lower down. And if that's easy, bring the legs forward, straight forward, and take the hips up off the floor. Take the arm up towards the ceiling. Bring your hips down. And then up. Bring them down. And then back up. And then back down with the hips. You can bring the arm down. So take, just from a seated position, bring your arms to height of your knees and slowly roll back, right? Roll. Just coming over the sacrum can be a bit too much for people, so you could lie on your back if you can. But I'm going to come over the sacrum into this low bow position. I'm going to hold this for 3, 2, and 1. And then all the way down, head and shoulders down. Now I'm going to do a couple more dead bugs, if you know, and then I'm going to finish up in a low boat, which I think is, a very good position. It's just very hard for people. So take the feet off the floor, take the hands over the shoulders, Bring the right arm overhead and the left leg forward. Keep the belly, keep the ribs in. Bring the hands over the shoulders. Opposite arm, opposite leg. And keep pulling in. Bring the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips. Take the right arm overhead, the left leg forward. Bring it in. Bring the hands over the shoulders, knees over the hips. Take the left arm overhead and the right leg forward. Keep the belly in. Bring the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips, and bring the feet down. So you could do, so when you come up and do a low boat, you could just push the forearms into the thighs for 20 to 30 seconds, which is very difficult to do. Or I'm going to do a low boat variation. So I'm going to take the legs up. As I take the legs up, I'm going to take the arms overhead and the legs forward. So I'm holding this position. Now, if I could have the knees bent. I could have the arms beside me. But again, I'm in this overhead position for 3. Ribs are in. 2. And then 1. And then bringing the legs down. Have the feet underneath the knees. Have the hands over the elbows. And lifting the pelvis off the floor. Getting the shoulders back. Elevating the pelvis. Couple deep breaths here. Slowly rolling the back down. Mid, upper back down. Low back comes down. Pelvis down. And you could just rest. If you had the time, you could rest. Just going to sit up and recap what we did and why you want to do it. So again, a very basic series to help in toning the abdomen. But like I said, you have to be consistent. You have to do it throughout the week. And it also takes time to see results with something like this. It might take a while. Also, too, it's your diet. Big part of that is, dieting. Intermittent fasting is obviously incredibly popular these days. You could try it. There's plenty of information on the internet. So that's a very good way. It's just you're limiting yourself to 2 meals a day as opposed to 3, and you're not snacking as much. And but that really, kind of is a huge part of why people are continuing to have belly fat, or they're just not able to lose the weight that they'd like to. So stay consistent with it. Be consistent. This is a basic series. It could be other things you could do. And also, too, if you're doing a lot of training, maybe you're doing too much training or not a diverse enough amount of training. So I hope this helped. Let me know how it goes. Got any questions, you could always leave me a direct message and I could answer you as best that I can. Take care, and hopefully I'll see you in class soon. Namaste.